Welcome, everyone. I'm Dana Peever, decision expert, author, speaker, and podcast host. You're listening to the Wildly Courageous Women podcast. More women than ever are faced with challenging decisions on a regular basis. I am so privileged to sit down with them to discuss exactly what they've gone through and how they've come out the other side, realizing their wildest dreams. I'm sure you'll be able to relate. And don't forget to stay to the end to take advantage of my latest free gift. Let's get started. Hello, you wildly courageous women. Welcome to the Wildly Courageous Women podcast. I'm Dana Peever, decision expert. And as always, we're here talking about decisions that have been made in our lives that were courageous or impactful or changed the course of our life, or even one that we wish we could go back on. Each week, I join you twice, once with a guest and once solo. Today, I'll be sharing an impactful decision that I've made in my life. Since I've been studying the science of decision-making for over 30 years, the majority of my life's decisions have been made very intentionally using my 5-step Decision Smith system and app. I'll walk you through all my thoughts behind the scenes, but before we get started, I want to remind listeners to stay to the end to get access to my latest freebie. So let's dive into the decisions that I'm going to talk to you about today. The circumstances surrounding them have to deal with friendships. Now, I know as adult women, we treasure our female friends, our tribe. And if you're anything like me, you spend an inordinate amount of time ensuring that you're surrounding yourself with the right people. You know, just yesterday, I was listening to a podcast between Oprah and Brene Brown. And it was a podcast where they were talking about one of Brene's books. And, you know, it was interesting. Brene said that she shared with her kids as they were growing up this simple visual. She told her kids to cup their hands in front of them and make, like a cup. And she said, pretend that there's a flame in that cup. And sometimes the flame is going to be really bright and strong and warm. And other times it's not going to be, as prolific. But the types of people that you should surround yourself with and the friends that you should keep are the ones that when your flame starts to dim, they're going to be around to help build that flame back up, to breathe life back into it. They're not going to be the people who try to blow it out. She also said that when you're in times of need, when your flame needs to be protected from the wind, where it might blow out, your tribe should be one that stands around that cup, your flame, and protects you from the wind to ensure that that flame doesn't go out. And I loved that analogy, and I actually shared it with my daughter last night, and she thought it was pretty impactful. And so maybe I've done something like that my entire life without really having described what that looks like. And I'm hoping that you, as listeners, pay a lot of attention to, the friendships that you do have. I think it's been my experience that, society, again, puts pressure on us as women to maintain friendships for the sake of appearances. Take, for example, even on streets that you live, perhaps there's a good group of moms or parents that are together quite often. And just to keep the peace, it's expected that you engage, on a regular basis with all of these people. And sometimes those people can be toxic or not good for you, but because of what everybody else expects, you feel the need to maintain a greater level of interaction than you might normally feel comfortable doing. So I think it's really apparent in so many aspects of our lives And I'm hoping that you're taking a step back and really evaluating how your friendships serve you. And I want to tell you, two quick stories about really good friends that I had, that I had to make some tough decisions about. One friend was someone I'd met through some work that I was doing. And, we spent a lot of time together, and she was a lot of fun. But there were times when she wasn't. And I've grown to understand that anything that is happening um, within someone is their strife to deal with, and not mine. And that's hard for me because I like to help people, and I like to help them see through the fog, and get through to the other side. So I spent a lot of time understanding where people are coming from, and really trying to give them that grace, because I know it's not me, it's them. So, in this particular situation, I had a friend who, I guess, just wasn't completely happy with the way her life was turning out, and didn't know how to move forward happily. So, I remember it was her birthday, and I was taking her out for lunch, and we had reservations at this restaurant that was, hard to get reservations at. And I got there first, and I was seated at the table, and it was a little two-seater table, in the middle of the restaurant, that didn't have any privacy, that servers were walking by. It was not a great table. It was the one table that you probably don't want at that restaurant, but it was a packed solid lunch, and there weren't any other options. And I sat there at the table, and I started to sweat, because I was so worried about what her reaction would be when she came and found that the table that we'd been given for her birthday lunch was as bad as it was. And I said to myself, I shouldn't have to worry about my friend's reaction when I'm taking her out for lunch. So, that was the beginning of some triggers for me. And then a couple other things happened. She had a younger brother. And, at this point in time, I think we were probably around our mid 30s, maybe a little bit older than that. And her younger brother got engaged. And at this point, my friend wasn't engaged, wasn't married, wasn't in a relationship, wasn't dating. And, she said to her brother, how dare you get married before me? And I thought to myself, wow, that's a really tough message for a brother to hear, at a time when, you're excited, you've proposed to your girlfriend, you're, planning on spending the rest of your lives together, and your big sister, is coming down on you for her own feelings of inadequacy. And I didn't like it very much. And then her parents came to visit. And as I mentioned, she was single, she lived alone, and she had found this couch that she really liked, and it was a couple $1,000s. And when her parents came to visit, she took them to see that couch with an expectation that they purchase it for her. Now, here she was, a professional woman. She had a good paying job, her own place, and that kind of thing, but still with an expectation that her parents purchase her this extravagant couch. And she was so upset when they didn't. And I couldn't understand how she had even expected them to consider purchasing that for her. Maybe as a, part of a gift, Christmas or birthday or something, maybe they would give her some money towards it. But to just outright come and purchase the couch for her with no reason, really boggled my mind. And I think the last thing that, was kind of the kicker for me um, was that she was, at our house and I was with my kids and they were doing something and she's got no kids. She had no kids at the time. I don't actually know now if she does or not. But she started telling my kids what to do and how they should act and what they should be doing when I was right there giving them instruction at the same time. And I think all of those things accumulated. And I had to sit back and make some decisions. My time spent with her, I was more on edge than I was enjoying my time. And so I wrote out a note and I gave it to her. And I told her, these were my reasons that I needed to step back because our friendship wasn't serving me anymore. That we'd had some really good times, but I just thought we were headed in different directions in terms of our morals and our philosophy and our values and things like that. And she was, of course, upset and hurt. But she chastised me for telling her the truth. She told me that from everybody that she talked to and shared my note with, that they all felt I could have just said, hey, my family life is really busy right now and I just need to take a step back. But for me, if I'd said that, that would have left the door open to re-engage in short order. And I wasn't ready or prepared to do that unless there was a change fundamentally in who she was. And as a friend, I can't expect that from someone. I can't expect you to change to suit my purposes. I'm not that selfish. I don't have those expectations. So I didn't necessarily see any longevity beyond that in our friendship. And so we never talked after that. And when I look back to that friendship, I realize, that the saying, there's a reason, a season, and a lifetime. And so I think perhaps she was a season because I was friends with her for quite a few years, but that season changed and we've moved on. And I only wish her the best. And I hope she's found some happiness. And I hope she's acknowledged some of the things that were bothering her enough to make her react to situations the way that she did. I only hope that for her. I have another story with a similar ending, and I don't want to give it away, but this one was really tough because she was my maid of honor. We met working at a restaurant. I know, the story when I walked in the door, she already worked there and I walked in the door and I think she'd been away on holidays or something. And she came back and here's this know-it-all who's essentially taken over her main spot as a hostess at the restaurant we were working at. And we quickly became fast friends and we spent many years together. And, we went away together and we went dress shopping for my wedding dress together and just we spent so much time. I saw her buy her first house, just so many things that we shared together. And she had actually been working at a really good job with a lot, like high pay, like 6-figure pay, and this is back 25 years ago. And I was still, not struggling. I had a good job, but I wasn't anywhere near where she was in terms of, how well she was doing from a salary perspective. And so she, took lots of trips and I didn't. And, she was really enjoying life. And then she made some job career choices that didn't turn out as well as she had expected. And so her financial situation took a little bit of a backhill slide, a downhill slide. And, you know, she still maintained her house, and things were okay, but they weren't as prolific or as good as they were previously. And that's important to the story. So she really loved her cats, and she had a cat at one point in time, and it was sick. And we had a cat or a dog, or throughout the course of the kids growing up, we had 3 cats and 3 dogs. So I can't remember what we had at that point in time, but we used a local vet just around the corner from me, who I was really happy with, pleased with the services. And so when she had some issues with her cats, she had called around to a few places local to her, and they were charging an arm and a leg. So I called my vet to see how much it would be with them, and it was significantly less, still a lot, but significantly less than some of the calls that she'd made. So she got an appointment and brought her cat to my vet. And when the bill came, she actually didn't have any way to pay it. It was, I think it was about $1,200 at the time. And when you look back 10 or 15 years ago, that's, it's still a little bit of money. And I was standing right there, and I just said, "Oh, I'll grab it for you. Like, no problem." Like, not even a second, didn't think about it twice. And, she thanked me. And then crickets, as it related to payback. And don't get me wrong, I could spare $1,200, but I wasn't swimming in money. And, I had a mortgage and car payments and kids and sports and everything associated with a growing family. And so I couldn't just easily say, don't pay me back that $1,200. And funnily enough, I had been burned in the past lending friends money a few times, and I vowed I would never lend anyone money again. It's just, I don't lend anybody money. But here she was. She was my best friend. She was my maid of honor. And I had no qualms, not even, I didn't think about it for a minute that it would ever be an issue. So a year goes by with nothing, no payments at all. Maybe 1 or 2 acknowledgments of, oh, hey, I owe you money. Yeah, you do. So then I think about after a year, I said, hey, I need that money. Can we start looking at a plan to pay it back? So I think she paid me $25 a paycheck for, she got paid every 2 weeks. So 3 payments. So I think maybe I got $75 back. Now, at the time, she had started dating, or had been dating, I'm just going to call a spade, a loser. And it got so bad that he physically assaulted her one night and wound up in jail. And that was ugly and awful and horrendous, and just a really dark time in her life. And I feel for her. Thank goodness she wasn't hurt other than a few bruises. And she came through that. But what happened next was really a tipping point for me. She borrowed $1,200 from her dad, so the exact same amount that she owed me. She went to her dad and asked to borrow that money so that they could pay for a lawyer to get him off the charges so that he could still work, because in the line of work that he was in, he couldn't have a criminal record. So she chose to make the request, because asking for money isn't easy, of her dad for the exact same amount of money to help a man who I can't even begin to describe how awful a human being he was, and how he had taken advantage of her for years. And she ultimately wound up losing her house because of all of this. But she chose him, who she'd only known for a couple of years, over our decades of friendship. So finally, when I talked to her about it and we were discussing how we could move forward, her words to me were, "You can't get blood from a stone. You're the lowest man on the totem pole in terms of who I'll pay back." And I said to her, you've reduced our friendship to a business transaction. And you just, didn't hold up your end of the contract. And as tough as that was, as awful a time as that was, thinking of ending a friendship that had been so fabulous and so fun with the best memories. I knew for me, I had to put myself first, and I had to ensure that I didn't continue to let myself be used and just accept it. So I walked away. And I haven't talked to her since either. And, I thought I would be sick to my stomach for days after that decision. But I'll never forget the night that I went to bed after it was all said and done. I slept like I hadn't slept in weeks. And I woke up the next morning and I tried to discern how I was feeling. And the overarching feeling I felt was relief. So I wondered how long I'd felt trapped by her behavior. And again, we go back to societal expectations. Who walks away from their maid of honor? Who, I can see people drifting apart or being, not close to each other in proximity, where they live and that type of thing. But to unequivocally make the decision to sever ties when you still live 10, 15 minutes away from each other, that was a big decision. And it's one that I've never spent 1 minute of regret on. It was what I needed and is what has helped me maintain confidence in my ability to be a good friend and to have good friends. So if you're sitting there, considering some of your friendships, I just want to make sure that you're ensuring that you're spending time with people who serve you and who are there for you in your corner. I think we don't learn that lesson soon enough in life as women. And I really think it's important. So if you've got some friendships that are on the bubble, there's a variety of different ways that you can proceed. You can limit time or you can cut them out altogether. But whatever decision you make, I really want to ensure that you're putting you as number one, because that's actually the most brave and courageous thing you can do for you. So Those were two heavy stories about friendships that I left that were no longer serving me. I want to ensure that you know that I still have an incredible tribe of women around me that I rely on day in and day out. So I want to thank you all so much for sharing your time with me today. All of you listeners out there, thanks for joining us. And if you're ready to realize your wildest dreams, come and join us in the Wildly Courageous Women Facebook group, where we're changing people's lives one brave decision at a time. I'm Dana Peever. Until next time, make great decisions and do life fun. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Wildly Courageous Women. Keep listening to hear more stories of these incredible women realizing their wildest dreams. If you have a story to tell about a decision that you've made that has impacted your life, I'd love to feature you as a guest. Please get in touch and don't forget to grab my latest gift by clicking below. I'm Dana Peever. As always, make great decisions and do life fun.